What's up, everybody? You are back on the other side of me, Mike G, where we go beyond the cage and ring to figure out what it means to be a real fighter. Today's guest is a man whose combat sports career has been legendary, chaotic, and in the end, nothing short of true redemption. Whether it was a war in the cage, a personal setback, or a painful life lesson, he has never stopped swinging. Today, he is a humble warrior and a voice of resilience for anyone walking a hard road. Ladies and gentlemen, it is truly my honor to introduce to you the BKFC and MMA legend, Bad Boy Leonard Garcia. What's up, Leonard?
What's up, man? Thank you. That's a great introduction. Those are all things I'm afraid to say.
Oh no. Well, it took me to the second sentence, but I got there.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate you guys, man. How y'all doing?
We're doing good over here. Man,
Good.
take me back to the very beginning. What was it like being the little bad boy? What was family life? What was it like growing up?
And so growing up, my entire life, I thought football was the key to success. I thought I'm a Texas boy, and up in the northern Panhandle, we had no wrestling. We had, there was basketball and baseball, but if you wanted to be somebody, you played football.
Yep.
And that was it. Like I was a farm boy, country boy, grew up and did well in high school. I thought college football was next, and tried to walk on at Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas, and I was 185 pounds, 5'10", and those guys, I had decent speed, a lot
Hmm.
of heart. I just didn't have a size.
Right.
And I, back the Wes Welker and those guys were leaving Texas Tech, but they could do something that I couldn't. They could catch. I was a running back,
Okay.
so the coaching staff there, they loved my drive, they loved my ambition. They just there was no room for the little guy. You know what I mean? Not as a
Sure.
running back. They gave me a good old pat on the back and they told me, "Yep, little man, it's time to go. Football's not gonna be your sport." So I during that time I was down.
Hmm.
I really felt like football was going to be the answer to all of my problems in life. Just that I thought that's how I was going to succeed in life.
Hmm.
Um, so I ended up becoming really good friends with quite a few of the players just because, they seen how hard I worked. They
Hmm.
really appreciated that the little guy was trying. It was almost a Rudy Rudiger story, but I
Yeah.
wasn't. It was just wasn't there. Um, so I end up becoming real good friends with these guys. They're telling me about these nightclubs and the nightlife out there for the football players, and they kind of brought me in as one of their own.
Hmm.
So we end up going out. We go out to this nightclub and we end up at a Taco Cabana in Lubbock, Texas afterwards. And I luckily ran into a guy who was trying LSD for the first time. Um, yeah, him and his brother. Just the backstory was him and his brother made some sugar cube
Hmm.
LSD and decided that they both took one. 30 minutes later, they were both just kind of hanging out. Wasn't nothing happened. So he gets the bright idea. He takes another one. Well, right around the time he took the other one, I guess the first one started to kick in. And when that second one kicked in, he went into this delusional state and left the house that he was at, which was a block away from the Taco Cabana that I was at.
Hmm.
He grabbed a knife from the kitchen and walked over to the Taco Cabana, came inside, and ran into lucky contestant one. Um, so I
What?
have a tray. Yeah, I have a tray of nachos in my hands, and if you know how Taco Cabana works, you get your food, you walk through the little line, and then you go over to your seat and you go eat. Well, he was standing in the middle of the line, and I had that tray of food in my hand, and I probably had a couple of alcoholic beverages in me that made me not conscious to what was going on. I just walked directly up to him. Well, my tray's up here, so I can't see his hands.
Hmm.
I see one hand come up into my nachos. So he's got a handful of chips, cheese, beans, jalapenos, and he just picks it up with his hand, and then he smears it on his face. And I'm dumbfounded. I don't know what's going on. So he smears it on his face, and he goes for the second helping. I dropped the tray and I punched him.
Sure.
And it was a full-on fight. We fought for probably a good 30, 45 seconds, and then kind of started wrestling. Well, the whole time he had a knife. So during the fight, he was using the knife pretty generously. He stabbed me 8 times, punctured both my lungs. He almost took my life. And
Man.
that ended, I wasn't going to make the team. There was no chance of me making the team, but because of the situation, basically a guy on LSD, one of the guys that was hanging out with the football players, they took that story and made it sound like I was a football player that was going to make the team. And, they kind of dressed it up a little bit. I didn't appreciate that because it was kind of untruthful. Right. But, the good thing that came of that was one of the professors there at the university, his name was Clay Pittman. He was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, and he owned a school there in Lubbock, Texas. So he kind of took a liking to the story, and he said, I'm gonna reach out to this kid, and he reached out to me, and he asked me if I was, he knew I was a competitive natured guy, and he told me he had something for me. So in my interest, when I started getting better, I went into his jiu-jitsu academy, and he had a 14-year-old small kid, roughed me up pretty good. And, I then, I fell in love with Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I trained there for 6 months, and I didn't think this was going to be my career, but I knew it was something I loved to do. So I ended up going over to a local MMA show. Back then it was called NHB, No Holds Barred Fighting. And I walked in as a fan, as a spectator, and I'm sitting in the front row, and I'm just sitting up there, getting excited for the fight to start. And a guy named Jesse Camargo, who's a promoter for the, for these NHB fights, he walks over to me, introduces himself, and he was like, "You take Brazilian jiu-jitsu?" And I said, "I do." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, how are you?" And I said, "Well, I feel like I'm fairly decent at it." He said, "Are you decent enough to maybe step in and do a fight for me tonight?" And I was like, "Tonight?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "Where's your weight at?" And I was like, "I'm, I had lost about 15 to 20 pounds during the time that I was, injured. So I was about 160 pounds. And was building up my muscles, getting everything back to normal." And he says, "Would you be interested?" And I was like, asked me what I weighed. I told him I weighed 160. He said, "That's perfect." They made me step on a scale. They sent a guy to Walmart, the local Walmart here. He bought me some red shorts and a mouthpiece. Well, there was no way to warm up the mouthpiece, so they got a coffee pot. They got a coffee pot with the fresh brewed pot of coffee. Stuck my mouthpiece in there, and I bit down on it. It was perfect. We were good to go. So I ended up fighting. He failed to tell me. He told me he would pay me $500, but in 1998, $500 was still $500. So it was a good night. But he didn't tell me that I was going to be the main event for the show. Basically his main event had dropped out. So I stepped in on a couple hours' notice. I won the fight by guillotine choke and became the champion on my very first fight.
That's awesome.
And I found, it was like my career found me. And I never turned back from that point. It was something that the exhilaration of getting in front of all those people, the fact that it was a one-on-one battle, it meant so much to me all at once. Like I was overwhelmed by that adrenaline, the feeling, everything else. So I never looked back, man. I ended up going, 9-0, and then found my way into the UFC. And that's the story of how my fighting career got started.
I can't I can't imagine what it feels like to get stabbed in the torso one time, let alone 8. And for people who don't know, what's amazing about you becoming a fighter after those lung injuries, if I did my research correctly,
Yeah.
as a very, very young kid, you didn't have the best lungs to begin with. Is that right?
I was born with underdeveloped lungs. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was a month and a half premature.
Oh
Um,
man.
my this is crazy. So my mom, my biological mother, didn't want anybody to know she was pregnant.
Okay.
So she's a very thin lady. She's very skinny. Um, she started showing signs of pregnancy at about 6 or 7 months, and started trying to figure out a way to get rid of the bump in her belly. So that was, I hear, this is all, of course I wasn't there,
The
so I
way you
don't
said that
know.
scares me to hear the rest. The
Yeah.
way you put
So
that, man.
yeah, it was told to me in many various forms. I heard, there was a 2x4 used with two people on each side to push the belly down, and then I've heard some other things. Well, the thing that rushed me out of her body, from what I understand, was
Whew.
there was a cleaning agent that was under the sink, and it decided to drink it. Well, that cleaning agent went down her throat, and whatever was coming out down her throat to get me, her body told me, "You better get out of here, because whatever's coming in is going to get you." So it induced the pregnancy, and my grandparents had no idea that I was coming.
Wow.
She gets rushed to the emergency room because of the a baby's coming out. So I was born very, super. My I guess my lungs and something else
Hmm.
was super underdeveloped, and I had to spend a lot of time in the hospital as a baby. I think my grandmother tells me that the first 5 months of my hot life were in the hospital.
That's a coincidence. I spent most of my first year in the hospital with pneumonia.
Wow. Yeah. So,
I can't imagine.
definitely, and of course, I don't know, what the process was like. I don't really know, but I know,
Hmm.
uh, I, even at that young age, didn't want to die. I think,
Right.
I was just, I was given an opportunity to live, and I took it. So my grandparents had to adopt me, due to the fact that they weren't going to release me to my mother, because they could
Well,
prove that there was something that was trying to get rid of me. So they were afraid. So my grandparents
mhm.
adopted me,
Shout out
when I was
grandparents.
a day old in the hospital, and
Wow.
took care of me. You know what I mean? They raised me, and I've since then, I was raised around my biological mother my whole life. Didn't know that she was my mother until I was a lot older, and
Wow.
then I met my biological father when I was 25. So
Okay.
lots of good ups and downs, but my grandparents gave me a great life. Um, definitely did. I did all the things a normal kid would do. Uh, I never have felt any animosity towards my biological mom or dad, because I had a good upbringing. You know what I mean? I think if I would have had a bad upbringing, maybe I would have
Right.
found somebody to blame, or anything else. But um, I never seen it that way, and I respect them both. I still call them both mom and dad. Whenever I see
Good
them,
for
and
you, man.
they're always welcome. It's just, I think people go through life, and they hold grudges, and feel like somebody owes them something. And I definitely know
Yep.
that that's not the case.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
man. One more question before we get into your career.
Okay.
What is your earliest memory of combat sports or fighting or martial arts?
Um.
You can't say Karate Kid either.
No. No. Yeah. Karate Kid was definitely one of them. Um. When I think I remember, I've got an uncle. He's my uncle by biology, but he is
Hmm.
my brother through he is my grandparents' son, and
Okay.
He's 11 years older than me. And I was 6 or 7 years old, and we had horses, we had all types of things. We used to clean the stalls. And one day he told me, "Hey, you clean this stall, and I'm gonna clean the other one." When I was done cleaning that stall, he said, "Oh, you were supposed to clean my stall, and I was supposed to clean this one. So go get on over there." And I got pretty mad at him. And when he leaned over to grab the thing, I reached back and I socked him pretty good. And as kids, you would get angry, and we're a rough and tough bunch. We're farm kids, and I broke his tooth, and I was only 6 years old, and I always remember how they would talk about, man, that kid's got a lot of punching power. He's got a lot of punching power, and that always stuck with me. And I think that was my first idea of understanding, hey, I have something different. Of course, I never really pursued it until I became a fighter, but I always knew that it was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2001. Let's see. No, 1999. What do you remember most about your debut against Chris Cantrell at the Unified Shoot Wrestling Federation 15?
Yep.
That was not easy to find.
That was a really good. We fought in a bull riding arena in Dumas, Texas. I remember my granddad drove me up there, and he was like, "Is this a rodeo or a fight?" And it was a great organization back then. Like I said, those NHB shows, you were going there to fight.
Yeah.
I remember walking in there, and that at the time was the largest organization around. So it was my first introduction to them. So it was my first time walking out in front of, here in Plainview when I'd fight, I think 400 or 500 people tops. And when I fought there in Dumas, I remember it was like 2,500 people.
Oh, wow.
And it was great. People loved, shoot fights back then. They really enjoyed them. But I remember, it was different. We had locker rooms. Say locker rooms. We had a bullpen where all the fighters are at, but it was like sealed off from the crowd.
Right.
And you would walk out. There was an announcer that you'd walk up to the cage. I remember the excitement and the nervousness that you felt going into that. It just kept getting easier and easier every time. But because there was so many people, it made it that much better. Like I remember sensing I'm moving up in the ladder. I'm starting to go from these smaller arenas into something bigger. And it was a great feeling. And being able to win that fight in the first round was even better,
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Now we get to 2001. You competed in WEC 1.
Yep.
That is so awesome, man. Walk me through your win over Victor Estrada.
So Victor Estrada had a coach. He beat Matt Hughes with a triangle choke. I can't remember his name.
Dennis Hallman.
Dennis Hallman.
There we go.
Dennis Hallman out of Washington, right? Yeah. So Dennis Hallman was Victor Estrada's coach.
Okay.
Jiu-jitsu coach. I was a jiu-jitsu guy, and I'm thinking like I'm a jiu-jitsu guy at a place in Lubbock, Texas, where there was no real big jiu-jitsu guy names there. There was nobody there that was like an exemplary or whatever. You had Hoist Gracie, you had all these other guys. Then you hear about Dennis Hallman, and to fight one of his students, I remember almost psyching myself out and almost scaring myself not to back out of the fight, but I almost was accepting, hey, if this guy submits me, he trains with Dennis Hallman.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember sitting in the back, kind of starting to get to that area, and I was like, wait a minute, no. You've come this far. You're all the way in California from a small little dusty town in Plainview, Texas. What the hell are you talking about? If this guy beats you, you're going to be all right. You got a reason or an excuse. And I remember thinking that, and I psyched myself out of it and went out there. And I remember when I looked over at him, I seen Hallman sitting in his corner, And I just smiled at him like real big. And when I did that, he was kind of, because he was trying to intimidate me. And when I did that, he looked at me and he was like, I remember he looked at the ground and I was like, okay, it's me and this guy, not me and you. So ended up doing well. Funny story about that fight. And the reason that me and the WEC had such a great relationship. Reed Harris was the owner for the WEC. I head kicked Victor Estrada and fractured my leg and didn't know it.
Oh no!
So I stepped back on my shin bone bounced right off the top of his head, and it created a really nice fracture. It wasn't a pretty one, but it spiraled. It went down in a weird way to where my bones stayed intact, but it would like come loose and then stay intact, come loose and stay intact. So you can imagine the pain there. And I remember having a hard time trying to walk, and there towards the end of the night couldn't walk at all. I drove all the way back from Lemoore, California to Plainview, Texas, and in a car with 4 other fighters. So I was the 5th person in a Cadillac DeVille with the AC went out right in Arizona. So we're driving through Arizona and we are looking at my leg, and my leg is just getting bigger, fatter, and it's starting to turn black. So I'm in agony, and then it's burning hot, and I'm running a fever because I have a broken bone. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm sweating profusely. I don't feel good. I tell the guys, hey, should we stop here at the hospital? They looked at me and it looked like they were pouring buckets of water on me. They said, yeah, let's stop. So we stopped at the hospital, and I remember the phone call that I had to make to Reed Harris. He's like, Leonard, what's going on? And I told him, hey, I'm in Arizona. I'm sweating real bad. My leg is swollen. It's completely black. He said, send me a picture. I sent him a picture, and he's like, oh, my God. He gets on the phone with them, gives them all the insurance information, and takes care of everything. They put a big cast on my leg, and he's like, Leonard, why did you not say anything to me that night? You know, why didn't you? I know you told me you were having problems walking, but why didn't you ask me to take you to go see the doctor or anything else? And I was like, I didn't want you to think that I was, a punk or something. And he laughed. He laughed so hard. But, yeah, he took care of me and actually sent me extra money. And if you think about it back then, it was WC1. I'm pretty sure the show did pretty well, but back then, promoters didn't care for fighters. It was like a weird time. We were just kind of the entertainment. And for him to do that for me really meant a lot to me. And we became great friends. And then I ended up coming back and having a fantastic career in the WEC. So, I don't know if you knew this, but I was actually named the face of the WEC.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. And it was a really great experience, and ended up coming full circle in the end. So it was awesome, man. It was really something. And that show as well, Chuck Liddell was there. There were so many big name fighters there that I really felt like, hey, man, I'm definitely going to make it one day.
I'm a die-hard WEC fan. I think I have 15 or 16 events on DVD out in the living room.
Yeah, man, that was a great atmosphere for fighting. Like everybody that went there just wanted to compete, man. There wasn't, it wasn't the tough guys. It wasn't the WWE acts. It was just guys showing up ready to prove that they were better than the next. And it was, I really, really enjoyed the WEC. When we got absorbed by the UFC, it was awesome, right? Because everybody wanted that big moniker and that big name. But I missed it so much, man. I missed those blue gloves.
I challenge anyone to find any WEC card ever that they could say was boring.
That's it. There's not one.
There's not
one. Even if they go back as far as WC1, you'll see me in there smiling, walking around with the bad leg.
That's awesome. Tell me about what went through your mind back in 2007 when you found out you were going to be joining the big show, the UFC.
Man, so Funny story is I got signed by the UFC in 2006, and then I went up to I was going to face Spencer Fisher my very first fight.
I've interviewed Spencer. He's great.
Spencer Fisher went down on his leg kind of funny and did something, and they just scratched the fight altogether. So they bring me out to Tough 5. I believe that's the one that Nate Diaz won.
I think so.
They bring me out to Tough 5. I do the interviews, do all that, get up in the hotel room. They got us in these top secret rooms. You can't talk to anybody, can't tell anybody what's going on. And during that time, I had a buddy named Rex Richards who trained in Lubbock, who was a 345-pound jiu-jitsu black belt.
Wow.
And he had just submitted Comprido, which was a huge name in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So Dana White wanted to meet him. So Dana White ends up having him come out to the Tough show, and we're all down there working out, and Rex shows up, and he's like, Leonard. So we run up to each other, give each other a big hug, and Dana was like, oh, you know this guy? And he was like, yeah, we trained together. And he was like, you two train together? And he was like, yeah, he's a very tough match for me. And Dana's like, man, I got to see this. And so he goes to the back, grabs some 4X shorts for Rex, and makes us grapple. So me and Rex start grappling. Mind you, he's 340 pounds, and I'm fighting at 155 at the time. So I'm probably about 162, 163 pounds. And we roll funny, and his hip ends up sitting on top of my wrist. Ooh. And he moved. So when he moved, we heard this loud pop, and we just stopped. Everybody kind of got quiet, and I got up, and I was like, I'm okay. And they were like, oh, okay. And Dana was like, I don't know what I was thinking. Call it off. So I get picked for the Tough 5 show, and then they take us for medicals. They put me in an MRI tube, and they found irregular blood flow in my wrist. My wrist was fractured, and I didn't even know it. So they said the danger of competing on the show, you have to fight so many times, you have to keep training. One wrong punch, and it would have caused that fracture to keep going. So I get a cast put on my hand, and they send me home. And that didn't take the wind out of my sails, but I was kind of like, dang it, man, I've been this close. Spencer Fisher, now it's going to be on the Tough show, and every time something goes wrong. So then I started wondering, is this meant to be? Is this something that's supposed to happen for me? Because I'm flying home from Las Vegas with the cast on my hand, no money, no fight contract, nothing. And I'm like, that's twice. So I sit at home for 3 weeks, and I get a phone call. They're like, hey, man, how you feeling? And I was like, I feel good. I feel great. And I was like, I still got these casts on my hand. They're like, yeah, it wasn't really that bad of a break. And I was like, no, it wasn't. They said, okay, do you got time to fly up here tomorrow? I said, I do. So they fly me back up. They take the cast off my hand, and they tell me, x-ray it. And they're like, yeah, there's a lot of new bone growth in there. It won't break. He's good to go. So they tell me, okay, you got 4 weeks to get ready. You're fighting Roger Worth at UFC 69.
That was my next question.
Game on. Yeah. I went from getting the cast taken off to the very next morning flying back home. Then Monday morning got out, drove to Greg Jackson's camp, which was 4.5 hours from me. Drove there and got adopted by the Jackson's camp, man. And that was it. I trained with Greg through, Diego Sanchez was there at the time, Rashad Evans.
Carlos Condit.
Yeah. No, Condit wasn't there yet.
Okay.
No, George St. Pierre,
Keith Jardine.
Keith Jardine,
there
absolutely. Damasio Page,
killers.
Diego Sanchez and Damasio were the two guys that were going to help me for my fight. Okay. But when I got there, I needed I needed more help. You know, I felt like there was a couple of lightweights, but
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like it wasn't enough guys. So they told me, what do you have in mind? I said, I know this crazy guy in Colorado named Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who was not on anybody's radar at the time. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we know Cowboy, we know him well." And they're like, "You think you can get him to come down here?" So I call Cowboy up and I tell him, "Hey, I got into the UFC," and he's like, "Hold on, he's got roofing nails going. He's on a roof. He's doing a roof." And I was like, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm doing a roof." I said, "Okay, cool, man." And he said, "Well, what do you need?" I said, "Well, I need you to help me come get ready for a fight." And he was like, "Today?" I said, "Yeah, well, I mean, after you finish the roof or whatever, you know."
Right.
And he was like, "Well, I own the roofing company. Do you think if I come up there and help you, you can get me a fight?" I was like, "In the UFC, I don't know. But if you come up here and help me, I'll do whatever I can for you." And he said, "Okay, cool." He looks at flights from his thing, has a buddy there that they started the roofing company together. He told him, "Hey, buddy, I got to go. I'm going to go chase this dream. I'll see you later." Jumped off that freaking roof and made it down there to Albuquerque, New Mexico the very next day and never left. He never freaking left, man. He stayed there with me the first two fights in the UFC. And then I sometimes I remember I used to say I got Cowboy into the UFC, but the truth was I didn't get him there. His hard work and what he was able to do is what got him there. I just made sure people knew that he was the guy that was beating everybody up. You know what I mean? I was very truthful when they would tell me, like, "How are you getting ready? How, like, who's pushing you the most?" I was like, "Well, these guys push me, but this one guy in there, he's beating everybody up. Like, he toys with everybody." And they're like, "Who are you talking about?" And I, brought him up, and he always thanks me for that. And always tells me, "You didn't have to elevate my name past yours. You were in the big show.
Right.
I was a nobody, and you would always bring me up. But to me, why try to overshadow somebody else's talent? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I knew without him, I wasn't getting any better. If you don't have somebody better than you, you're not going to get any better." And he would help me so much that I wanted to do anything to try to help him. And then now look at us now, man. I mean, Cowboy's one of the biggest names out there, and just one of the best people in the world, man.
Absolutely.
A really good friend.
What was it like hanging out with Grandma?
Grandma is probably one of my favorite people in the world, man. Her
She seems so awesome.
she's probably one. She's got the purest heart of anybody in the world. Like she almost becomes your grandma the second you meet her. Probably like hands down one of the best people in my life today. When I go up there to the ranch now, I have to sit in there and talk to Grandma for about 45 minutes. It's probably the best 45 minutes that I get out of being at the ranch the whole time. And that's saying a lot, because being at the ranch with Cowboy is a full-on adventure every day. But, getting to see her all the time and how happy she is, and just everything that she's been through and the stories that she tells, she's just such a genuine person. It's awesome to be around her.
Grandparents are awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man.
It's 2008. You're back in the WEC, and you take on one of my favorite fighters ever, Little Evil Jens Pulver, at WEC 36, Faber versus Brown. What was the game plan going in against Jens? And talk about that 22-second fight. Excuse me, 72. 72-second fight.
A minute and 12. So Jens Pulver was and still is to this day one of the guys that, Jens Pulver beat BJ Penn.
One of the greatest lightweights ever.
Phenomenal. Like Jens Pulver is definitely a turning point in my career. He was a guy that made people realize, God dang it, Leonard Garcia is a real fighter,
Yeah.
And he did it after taking Uriah Faber 5 rounds to a decision. I fought him that very next fight. There was so much nervousness and fear, like I was terrified. I remember training for that fight. I didn't miss one thing. Like every single training session that I had to have had to be there, or else I knew, like, if my preparation isn't perfect, this guy's gonna break me. To get in there and I landed a really my cousin with Dwayne Ludwig married my cousin Jessica. So me and Dwayne are cousins by marriage. Dwayne had a fight with Jens early on in their career. And the way Dwayne beat him, we had that game plan. We understood the way Jens steps and different things. Dwayne Ludwig is a tactician. Like, he's one of the smartest fight IQ guys that you'll ever meet.
Yep.
He would tell me, you watch his shoulders, watch his feet. Everybody tells you that, right?
Right.
But Dwayne would simplify it in a way that made so much sense. When he steps this way, you're going to watch his toes bite down and his heel's going to lift up. When he does that, you're going to let go of your right hand. But if you let go of it straight, he's going to slip off and he's going to hit you with that left hand. And we might not be talking till after you wake up. So he's like, so when he steps this way, he just broke it all down for me and made it perfect. I remember the first punch I landed on Jens, because Jens is a monster. He's a fighter. And the way you can tell when you're fighting a fighter like that is the facial expressions. Where is his mind at the moment? I remember landing that first shot and I seen his facial expression. He was like, oh shit. Yeah. So right then and there, I knew I got him. And I can't let up. Like, I'm not going to let off. If I let off, this guy can knock me out in a split second. So I turned the gas on. And when you said 22 seconds, I was like, no, I remember my gas. I was letting it go for, over a minute. I was going 100 miles per hour. I was so terrified that if I let him off the hook, I was going to be another Jens Pover trophy. So it was just a great night, man. It was a really good opportunity for me, and it was a great fight. I wish it could have been against a terrible person, because Jens is such a great guy. You almost feel terrible for having to hit him just because of the person that he is. But I knew, like he told me afterwards, I would have done the exact same thing to you had I had the chance. And that brings you that ease. And he's such a good guy to say that, because he knew that it was weighing on me. You know what I mean? Like, I had looked up to him for so long. It was like you knocked down one of your idols. And I think he knew that and went back there and actually comforted me, which tells you who he is as a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you let this young kid beat on you, and then you go back there and comfort him for doing that to you. He's just such a good person, man.
Yeah.
It was a really big turning point in my career. And I feel like without that fight, my name wouldn't have reached the heights that it did.
Okay. The next fight I want to talk about, I think also made you more famous, maybe not in a good way. I want to talk about 2011, your rematch with Korean Zombie, Chan Sung Jung.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on rematches, and does that twister still hurt?
So, funny story. He was in the military, the Korean military. He got drafted by them in 2011, right? Was it 11? 12.
12, I
Can't
think
remember.
it was, yeah.
Yeah, 12. And he won submission of the year for the twister. The first twister that ever been done. But he wasn't able to come down to the States and get it because he was serving in the military at the awards. I reached out to the award people and offered to accept it for him.
Oh, wow.
Because I thought it was a very deserving reward. He caught me completely. I had never even seen the twister. Joe Rogan was like, how did you not know it was coming? And I was like, dude, I had no idea. Like I had never seen it. Like
Joe wouldn't have seen it coming either.
Well, Joe and
Back then.
Eddie Bravo were the ones that kind of perfected that.
Okay.
So Joe he's seen the steps coming. If you remember the commentating for it, Joe was like, "Oh my God, I think he's setting up a twister." And even when he was commentating that, I was like, when I heard it over the, of course, then I knew what it was because I had gotten caught in it. But when I heard him say how surprised he was during the thing, I was like, Leonard, how could you have been that dumb? You knew he was setting something up. But we're so used to defending our necks and so used to defending, everything else that when he took my back and I had my legs there, I was like, oh, I'm good here. I'm going to relax for a couple. There was 1 second left in that round when I tapped. It was definitely, he's a crafty individual, man. And our first fight together, I think for me, like the Jens Pulver fight was definitely a big step up. But the Korean Zombie 1 fight was a fight that gave us both such a big push.
Yeah.
People are like, if two guys can go at each other for 15 minutes like that, they deserve to be, where in that place. And of course, you got guys like Jan and what was that other kids that fought him this weekend? Jan and the Van and what was the other kid's name? 125, ranked number 1.
Pantoja?
What's it? Royval. Brandon
Royval. Yep.
Yeah, you see a fight like that. Those two guys went to war technically. Me and the Zombie went to war chaotically. So it's like you watch those two fights, and both of those guys are going to be remembered forever because of that fight. And so we're me and the Zombie, except for now we're 1-1. And I was talking to Bare Knuckle a while back, and I said, I know I'm retired, and there's 2 names out there that I would come back for. And they're like, okay, who are the 2 names? It's like, of course, you guys already know Diego Sanchez. That's a personal one.
Sure.
I said, but the Korean Zombie, if I could fight that guy again, bare knuckle, I think that it would be a match made in heaven, man. I think that's a fight that could relive, it would definitely live up to the expectation. And so, we laughed about it, but the twister was a crazy move, man. It was nuts. So I got up there when I accepted the award. They're like, how'd they talk you into this? I said, they twisted my arm a bit, and everybody laughed.
Yep.
But I thought it was just something cool to do, because he was very deserving of it. And having the guy that he caught it on accept the award for him while he was on the thing, that made me feel good for him. So I was glad to do it.
What about you versus Korean Zombie 3 in card jitsu?
In which jitsu?
Have you heard of card jitsu?
No.
Oh, you have got to check this out, Leonard. Yes, it's put on by a man named JT Tilley. He does slap fight, not power slap, but the slap fight out of Branson, Missouri. And card jitsu, Google card jitsu, Randy Couture, Mark Coleman. What it is 2 guys start in the front seat of a car, driver, passenger, seat belted. They say go, and the idea is to get out of your seatbelt and choke the other guy out.
Wow.
It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. It's ridiculous and hilarious.
What is the car doing? Just parked?
Yeah, you're just jiu-jitsu in a car.
Okay. That sounds, it's unbelievable. I
don't want you guys to hit each other anymore.
Yeah, that way we don't have to punch each other. That's right. There was a reason I ran to bare knuckle. Jiu-jitsu was definitely a big love of, it was a great season in my life, but I fell in love with the stand-up, with the ability just to go toe to toe. So when it was time to shift gears and go into bare knuckle, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Had bare knuckle been around early on, I don't think I would have ever done the UFC. Honestly,
Oh wow.
yeah, I really loved in MMA. When you go in there, you have so many senses turned on.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, you know what I mean? There's a lot going on. You got everything that's telling you, hey, watch for this, watch for that, because there's so many different avenues of attack. But with
Sure.
bare knuckle, it was so pure that it was like everything is turned on. Like
Right.
every single sense in your body is on. And I really, man, I really enjoyed that feeling. If Father Time wasn't as cruel as he is, I'd still be doing it today. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad you had an awesome MMA career.
Yeah. I know. And like I said, jiu-jitsu and MMA was definitely my first love. And it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely where and the crazy thing is, like, we talk about people, just regular people, just the everyday
Right.
Joe. I don't have, there's people like I don't fear anybody, anybody but God. I've always been a person that said the biggest person I'm afraid of is myself.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I am responsible and I am the reason that everything happens in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I am not afraid or don't question anything that I'm doing, I could completely run my life into this crazy place. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
chose to challenge myself at every turn and have made leaps and bounds and different things. But when I sit back and think about it, I'm no different than anybody else. I've seen some of the lowest lows,
Mm-hmm.
but because I did not want to sit there and wanted to challenge myself and didn't believe that that's where I belonged and kept pushing and pushing and pushing, like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I never accepted that, hey, you're down and out and you got to stay down. No, you can get up and try again. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. So it's like MMA was a fantastic career, but because I wanted to challenge myself.
Yeah.
The guy that says, I don't really like to fight, or I don't like this, I don't like that. What do you really like?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have a gift. And if you're afraid of yourself more than anything else, imagine looking yourself in the mirror and knowing I didn't do something for you. You know what I mean? I
Right.
didn't try. I didn't try this. I didn't try that. And then you're looking at the guy in the mirror that's suffering
Mm-hmm.
from that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's a difficult thing for me. So every time I look in the mirror, I want to know I'm doing everything I can to make your life better.
That's
So
awesome, man.
yeah, it's a good
Um,
thing, man.
I'm not going to bring up all three of your BKFC fights, but I do want to talk about the final one. Really difficult opponent, Joe Elmore. He's a beast. How would you describe your last moments in your own mind as an active fighter as they were happening?
With Joe, that dude was scary. Like
Hmm.
he was, that brick wall behind you. I don't know if that's a real wall or if it's just a
I'll never tell.
okay. That dude would run through that wall just to prove to you
Right.
that he's tough.
Yeah.
I was, my wife was like pulling up videos of him punching himself, like, and
Yep.
not like, you know, he was like really rearing back and just
Yeah.
letting like knotting himself up and shit. My wife was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, look at this guy." He's
Yeah.
beating himself up, and it was so funny. At the weigh-ins, the day before our fight, he does this crazy stuff where he can control his body so well and has this freak strength.
Hmm.
He lifted his legs in the air. His legs were in the air, and he was doing push-ups with his legs off the ground, like coming, yeah, just pushing off the ground,
With his
legs
arms.
elevated. And I'm looking at him, and I turn around and I look at my
Wow.
wife, and I was like, there's nobody holding his legs, huh? And she was like, no. I said, yeah, I didn't think so. And I turned back around, and I have to act like I'm not intimidated, but I'm
Right.
like, this dude is a freak, you know? He's a freak of nature, and just a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
There was some shots that I hit Joe with that he should have been on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And he would his facial expressions, I remember Joe would like fade. He would fade away like, "Ooh, that was a good shot." I remember I hit him in the kidney. He told me he peed blood for 3 weeks after our fight. That's how hard of a kidney shot it was.
Whew.
I hit him with that, and then let me tell you something. You get hit like that, your body tells you, go away. Like, get away from
done.
this. Yeah, take a break. I remember he looked down, and then when he looked up, I was like, he broke. And when I got that confidence, like, yeah, he broke, his facial expression changed again. And he turned into Joe Elmore again. And I was
got mad at you for being confident.
I was like, why will you not just quit being crazy Joe and go away? I have broken knuckles after that fight because of him. My thumb there, I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah, I can see
that thumb, and then that top knuckle.
Mm-hmm.
I broke both of them during the fight with him. So I broke my hand, hitting him so hard, and he would not go away. Do I believe that I changed him in that fight? I believe that I took something because I don't think he's been the same since then. I want him to find that old Joe again because he deserves to be that guy because he still is. Very. I mean,
terrifying.
He is a terrifying individual. I remember watching him, and the hair on the back of my head would stand up. Because I was like, man, this dude is nuts. He fought one night and then wanted to fight somebody else that same night. He was like, bring him up here. He's like, I'll fight him right now. And I believe him. You know, he's just that type of competitor. Mm-hmm. To be able to go in there and clean sweep him on the card, to win every round really meant a lot to me. And I really feel like I gave a very good performance. Mm-hmm. I gave him the best version of me. That I could bring to the table, and he was right there with me the whole time. Do I believe he has the skills to be a really elite fighter? I do. Mm-hmm. I hope he finds it again, and I think when he does, a lot of people better watch out.
Yeah. When the decision was read and you were announced the winner against Joe, what did that moment symbolize to you?
It was super emotional because I knew I was going to retire. Mm-hmm. And to get a victory over the number one guy in the division, to have my wife and my family there, it meant the world to me. And it was like, how do you I've always heard this, and it always made sense. You leave the party when everybody wants you to stay. Mm-hmm. When everybody wants you to stay, that's when you should go. When people are ready for you to leave, that's not the time you want to go. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just felt like it was perfect. It was a perfect moment. The best feeling in the world to have every judge agree with what you thought you had done. And it was phenomenal, man. To have that forever, cemented. Like, I was number one in the world, the ranked number one guy in the world that night. And I felt like it was, I believe that after that fight, people believed it. And that's the best feeling. That was the best feeling for me. And I was glad that I was not headstrong and like, I'm gonna see what else is next. I was 41 at the time, and I really felt like, it's time. It's time to go ahead and get away from this and attend to my family and do the things that I needed to do, because during fight camp, it is a different time, man. You do have to become a different person. You do have to flip a switch, and having a family, that's really hard to do, man. It's they're the thing you care about the most in life, and to have to pay attention to yourself and be selfish is not something that I wanted to continue to do. So
There's a lot of guilt with that, isn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you miss, like now, if my kid wants to go to the movies, I don't miss it. You know what I mean? It's just like you want to you want to give them those memories because you don't know what happens tomorrow, so you want to give them the best today.
Absolutely. What would Leonard today say to an 18-year-old Leonard Garcia?
Too many things. I would tell him, that life is not about him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The selfishness is going to get you in trouble, and you need to start, really focusing on the one thing that's constant. God is the one constant thing in my life that has never let me down.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been there. And like I said, I've been down, that my IRS, we'll get into that in a minute. But I would tell him, like, hey, think about everything around you, not just you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Focus on the things that are going to elevate you in life. Keep challenging yourself. That's one of the best things about you, is that you're willing to take on any challenges, but take those challenges for people around you, not for yourself. And that would be the biggest thing I would say to 18-year-old me. It's not about you. It's about everything around you.
I was in Texas a couple weeks ago at the BKFC event, and they presented you with a belt. You and I spoke previously about that belt and what it was for. But for people who are going to watch this that weren't there and don't know, could you share about that?
Yeah, so BKFC 4, I said 6 for some reason, but it was 4. I fought on the USA versus Mexico card.
Mm-hmm.
The Mexican consulate had gotten a hold of my 23andMe, and they found my great grandfather was from Mexico. So I'm a 5th generation American. So they asked me to represent Mexico on that card, and I accepted. I thought it was kind of cool that another country wanted me to represent them, even though I was an American. I just thought, hey, why not? This would be cool. So I ended up fighting Julian Lane, who had just won the European Championship and was in the BKFC to become the welterweight champion. And I fought Julian that night, and I knocked him out in the second round, and I won the Latin American title.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mexico was pretty adamant about keeping their champion, so they certified that title as a world title, and it kind of locked me into the Mexico champion. Well, I went and I had a second fight at 155 to try to win the American bare knuckle lightweight title, and it didn't go my way. Like, that was Jim Ehlers was definitely the better man that night. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself when you lose, but the Julian Lane fight was really a gift and a curse. I had been on the shelf for 4 years, hadn't really done a whole lot of training. And when I got that fight, I had 6 weeks to get ready. So I went out there to the ranch with Cowboy Cerrone, and I trained my butt off. Like I said, I'm one of those guys who challenges myself. I trained like a madman for 6 weeks and went out there and knocked out Julian. So then I thought, man, Leonard, you can just live regular life, and then 6 weeks before a fight, you just go train as hard as you can, and you're going to win every time.
Sure, it'll work every time.
No, I thought I had the recipe, and I was set. Well, I was supposed to fight Jason Knight, and 3 weeks into our fight camp, he broke a rib and wasn't able to take the fight. So they replaced him with what I was told, a jiu-jitsu guy named Jim Ehlers. So I was like, a jiu-jitsu guy wants to fight me in bare knuckle?
Deal.
I'm going home. So I went home. I came home to my family, and I trained the last 3 weeks here at home. No coaches, just running, punching a bag, and jump rope. And I thought I was going to show up, because I had 3 weeks of hard training and 3 weeks of kind of just maintaining weight. I'm gonna beat this jiu-jitsu guy. He cut through me like a hot knife through butter. I mean, he whooped my butt. But when you're fighting high caliber athletes,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be your life.
Yeah.
And he taught me a very valuable lesson. And I'm glad he did, because had I gotten through that fight and fought Joe Elmore with 6-week training camp, it probably wouldn't have been good for me. So,
Right.
The Joe Elmore fight was at 165,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the number one contender. But since I was the Latin American champion, they didn't put the BKFC title on because
Okay.
they didn't know that Joe was going to win or that I was going to win. So they were like, we can't give him the BKFC title and overshadow the Latin American title. That might hurt our chances of going back to Mexico. So they just made it for, the number one
Gotcha.
ranking. Well, when I retired that night, Dave Feldman calls me after, and he was like, the one regret that I have is that I never got to put the BKFC gold around your waist. And since we're coming to Texas, I want to do it now. That tells you what type of guy Dave Feldman is and the individual that he is, to care about fighters, to give them that. And it was a great honor. And to be able to get that belt in front of my family and have, my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, was jumping up and down and going crazy. Mm-hmm. It was a fantastic feeling. It felt really great. And I thank Dave and the BKFC for that, because they didn't have to do that. Yeah. He could have moseyed on through life, but to give me that honor really meant something. And it gave me hope that there are promoters out there that care for the fighters, and Dave Feldman is one of them.
It was beautiful to witness in person.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
I got 2 more questions related to fighting, and then we'll get into some more personal and fun stuff. Who is someone you would have liked to have fought during your career but didn't get the opportunity to?
Again, that would be Diego Sanchez.
Okay.
Diego Sanchez is the one guy that. So Diego was I looked up to Diego a lot. He won the Ultimate Fighter, and he was a Mexican kid, and was full of grit and kind of. I didn't know how crazy he was till I met him. But me and Diego fought on UFC 69 together. And I remember we did an interview together our second week of training. And the guy that was doing the interview asked me, what's it like to fight on the card with Diego Sanchez? And I poured my heart out. Man, it's a dream come true. I've looked up to Diego. I think he's great. One of the best guys. And we're in here. We're training together. He's getting me ready. It really is. I'm honored that I was chosen for, that I'm getting this spot on the same card with him. Diego's answer was very different from mine. They asked him the same question, and he said, well, we're on the same card together, but I'm the co-main event, and he's on the undercard. That right there told me who he was as a person. And from that point on, my goal was to whoop him every time we trained together. And it would have been a great honor for me to be able to face him, in the ring and fight each other. That would have been something that my body, it's my heart still calls for it today. That hence why I called him Mountain Bare Knuckle, just because I'd like him to see that he obviously thought at that moment, well, I'm better than this guy. Yeah. That's exactly how he viewed it. And I just want to show him. I want to give him a chance to prove it to himself and prove it to me. So I think it'd be a great fight.
Okay. Any combat sport, any era, give me your Mount Rushmore top 4 greatest fighters ever.
Felix Trinidad.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
One of my favorite boxers to watch. Yeah, Tito. I mean, hands down, one of my favorite fighters. Donald Cowboy Cerrone. You watch that guy fight, and he's it's like poetry in motion. That one combo that he has that's on the highlight reel where he lands kick, like head, body, hook into the kick. he would do that to everybody. I seen him
Yeah.
do it to John Jones once. He was
Ooh.
phenomenal. That kid right now, Ilya Tapora,
Yeah.
right now is one of the best. And let's go into the legendary guys. Um, I'd like to say Hoist, but I think Hoist was just so far ahead of everybody in
Hmm.
his trade that it was kind of unfair at the time. But man, let's see. Muhammad Ali, man.
Absolutely. The
Uh
greatest ever. Yep.
the greatest ever. Yeah, the greatest boxer. So those four guys, man, they could teach. If a guy wanted to learn about fighting, just watch tape on those four guys right there,
Hmm.
and you'll learn a lot.
All right. I reached out to a guy that you trained with a little bit, a man who, in all the time I've been podcasting, I don't know if I've ever heard anyone speak so highly of
Wow.
anyone as Tom Schoaf spoke about
Oh
you.
wow.
Um, he gave me a little bit of information, some stuff I had no idea about that I wanted to bring up. I would like for you to tell me about House Fires Ministry.
House Fires Ministry. That is my brother's-in-law's uh, services. His church.
Okay.
So my brother-in-law was a pastor, and he left a church due to not a disagreement, but he just thought the church was kind of reaching for things that weren't of God. They wanted
Okay.
money, and he didn't believe in that. So he
Hmm.
actually took himself out of a very good paying position because he didn't believe in those ways, and he wanted to start a church that was for people.
Okay.
Um, he's a believer of people in church should be people who are broken, who don't have an experience with God, not people who say, I'm the godliest man in the world
Hmm.
and go and do sins where nobody
Yeah.
can see them. He likes people who are broken, who are addicted, who are, hurt, who have
Hmm.
real trauma, and he likes to heal them using God. Well, he didn't have a place to hold his services, and I was able to buy a pretty good house that had a really nice shop connected to it, and I donated my shop to him for him to start having services there. And he quickly outgrew my shop now at my shop, and now has a full blown church. And he's just a phenomenal pastor, and he really helps you connect, man. Really, really helps you find God in the ways that you're supposed to find God. You're supposed to search for God when you are broken, not when you're not supposed to be that guy that says, I would go to church, but I drink. I would go to
Right.
church, but I cuss. I would go to church, but I do drugs. I would go to church, but this or that.
Hmm.
You should say, because I do that, I'm going to go seek answers. I'm going to go find God and fill myself with that so that I don't have to do any of this stuff to make myself feel good. And he's just a really special person. His name is Eric Flores. And me and Tom have both had great run-ins with him all the time. He's my brother-in-law, so I got to see him every day, but it's a good thing.
That's awesome, man. Tom Schoaf thinks the world of you. I am not joking. I could say it over and over and over, and it wouldn't tell you how much. So
I, I,
you
I think, yeah, I think Tom is probably one of the just most straightforward, honest people.
hmm
Just shoots from the hip, tells you like it is, and whatever your reaction is, he's not looking for a negative. He's just trying to find the positive in life. He's
hmm
just he's one. We need more people like Tom in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, these next questions are going to be kind of strange. I promise you've
Okay.
never been asked these in an interview before. The
Okay.
idea here is to make the professional fighter more relatable to the people who would
Perfect.
never get in the ring, never get in the cage. There's something different about you, but I'm going to try and figure out what's relatable. My first
All
question
right.
is, being from Texas, living in Texas, I'm sure you have a preference. What do you like better, pulled pork or brisket?
Whew, that's a good one. Um, Brisket. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, brisket. Just I'm born and raised around cows and pigs, but I like those cows living a little bit better than the pigs.
Right. Okay. Both in their prime. Who wins, Ali or Tyson?
That's a tough one.
Hmm.
Um,
You can argue
Ali
for
is
both easily.
Yeah, it could go either way, and with one split move, um, I would go with Ali. I believe he's the resiliency that he had and the
Hmm.
things he was able to do and the way he would outsmart Tyson and I think because of his fight IQ and his prime, I think he would have beat Mike Tyson.
I think he could have frustrated Mike, and
Yeah,
that would have been the end. All right.
absolutely.
Am I more likely to catch you drinking a cup of coffee or an energy drink?
An energy drink for sure.
What's
Not a
your
coffee
favorite, man?
drinker at all.
Okay. What's your favorite energy drink?
C4, Jolly Rancher.
C4. Is that the one that makes your head feel all burny and fuzzy?
That's the one. That's the
Oh,
one. It's gasoline in a can.
the first time I had one of those, I didn't read the can at all. And 10 minutes after I started drinking it, I thought I was dying. I almost called
Yeah,
911. It
yeah.
was intense.
That you got the right one. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the one.
So,
That one
so
gets me
since
going
then, I
for
share them with people without telling them what to expect.
sure.
All right.
So,
What's the best Rocky movie?
Rocky Four.
Okay. Definitely
Rocky
the best
Four.
soundtrack.
Yeah, best soundtrack for sure. Rocky Four. I think it showed. It showed that we're all afraid. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you've got to be more afraid of the obstacle, but still
Yeah,
be willing to climb to it. So great.
absolutely.
Yeah,
All right. Favorite animal at the zoo?
the lion,
Awesome. Hell
the
yeah.
lion for sure.
All right. Again, both in their prime. Who wins, GSP or Anderson Silva?
GSP.
There we go.
Yeah, I think GSP had a difference about him that I trained with him,
Hmm.
and I watched Anderson in his prime. I think GSP had he's just such a technician and his
Hmm.
ability to get on top of people and change them when he was on top.
Yep.
I think he would have gotten Anderson. I think it would have been a lot like the
Chael.
Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen fight, but I
Yep.
don't
Without
think
the mistake.
GSP would have got caught in the end.
Yep. I agree
Yeah,
completely,
yeah.
man. All right. Would you rather be hit in the face once or step on a Lego barefoot every night for a week?
Hit in the face for sure. Hit in the face every
Yeah.
time. Them Legos are unforgiving. Remember, I got a 6-year-old, so I've had
Yeah.
that several times.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. What's worse, being underestimated or misunderstood?
Wow. I think misunderstood because underestimated, your feelings wouldn't get hurt. Misunderstood would bring some feelings in, and that's the one
Hmm.
weakness that we have as humans. We have emotions, and they tend to get us in trouble. So
Yep.
misunderstood would be worse.
All righty. I ask everybody this because
Okay.
everybody has a preference and an opinion. In your bathroom at home, does the toilet paper go over the roll or under?
I use wet wipes,
There we go.
but I would like for it to be over.
There we go.
Yep,
Doesn't matter as
over.
long as there's something within reach.
That's right. That's
There we
right.
go. All right. Prime Leonard Garcia in a street fight versus Jake Paul.
What size difference? Size difference. Um, Man, that's a tough one because I've contemplated trying to spar with him or trying to figure out a way to get in there to see what he's got. He's such a big dude.
Hmm.
And again, we'll get back into the you say not everybody's a fighter. Uh, Jake Paul and his brother are both athletes
Hmm.
and they got a lot of money
Hmm.
and they've invested into the ability to learn how to fight.
Hmm.
Just like I tell you guys, the same way I did it, anybody could do it. I believe that's what Jake Paul's doing right now.
Yeah.
Would I want to fight him in a street fight? I think I'd win because I've got jiu-jitsu.
Hmm.
So definitely I'd get him.
Awesome. You're going to go commit a bank robbery, and you've got to take two people with you, a gunman and a getaway driver. Who are you taking?
Cowboy Cerrone and
Of course.
probably what's the NASCAR driver's name? Sponsored us number 11, Budweiser. Kevin.
It's not Harvick, is it?
Harvick. Yep,
There we
Kevin
go.
Harvick. Yep, Cowboy
Okay.
and Kevin would be my two.
I can't think of a better duo. Honestly, that might be the best two ever. Let's see here. What is something that you really enjoy that most people don't know about?
I enjoy watching my daughter go to gymnastics. I enjoy watching her. Well, watching her do privates.
Mm-hmm.
She's definitely got my challenging herself ability, and to watch her do stuff like that, it really picks me up. But really, anything with my kids is a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. Like any of my kids,
Yeah.
it's just right now she's a phenom in gymnastics, so I really
That's
enjoy
awesome.
watching it.
That's awesome, man. People who watch this show know that the goal is always to inspire people who are struggling. For viewers who might watch this who are feeling broken or like giving up, what message would you have to share with them about continuing to fight?
I've seen that point several times in my life, and never laid down to it. There's been
Mm-hmm.
several factors, like I said, with the Spencer Fisher breaking something, me breaking my wrist. I thought it was never going to happen, and thought
Mm-hmm.
about giving up. Several times I've been down and out. When you give up, just remember you have to live. Every action you take has a consequence. So
Mm-hmm.
if you do something, great, people are going to talk about you. Oh, that guy thinks he's tough or
Mm-hmm.
thinks he's bad. If you don't do enough, they're going to say, oh, that guy doesn't do enough. If you
Yep.
don't do nothing, they're going to say, oh, man, that guy don't do nothing. So don't give up on yourself, man. Just keep trying, because eventually something's going to click, and
Mm-hmm.
you just got to find it. And those people that feel like this is the last thing, this is the lowest low, death is the lowest low. You never wake up
Mm-hmm.
again.
Yep.
So what would you do if you were dying today? You would think of all the things you wanted to do. Go do them
Yep.
now. Go do them now.
Absolutely.
If you don't have the means or the ability, start low. Start walking. You gotta crawl. Then you
Mm-hmm.
start walking. Then you'll be running. Just don't give up, man.
Yep.
I can tell you there's been several times that probably everybody around me thought, man, that guy should just give up. And then look at me now. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
you want. You want that redemption moment. Look at me now, and doesn't matter where you are now, you can do it.
Absolutely, man. What's the best way for fans and friends of Bad Boy Leonard Garcia to keep up with you and everything you have going on these days?
TikTok at Bad Boy Garcia, Facebook at Bad Boy Garcia, and Instagram at Bad Boy Garcia. But my wife is a big TikTok influencer, Leah
Okay.
TX Real.
Nice.
So Leah TX Real, she gets our family stuff every single day. That's
Okay.
one of the best ways to keep up with me. I think people watch me on her stuff all the time, and it's very entertaining. You guys get on there and watch.
All right. Leonard, I am out of written questions, man. Is there anything else you
Perfect,
want to
man.
share before we hop off here?
Man, for you, man, your podcast is very inspiring, and
Thank you,
I'm
man.
honored that you asked me to be on it, man. I think
I
it's a
appreciate
great
you.
thing that you're doing, and I encourage you guys, man. If y'all see any of this guy's stuff, he asked some great questions, and
Thank you,
his
Leonard.
goal is to make sure that people don't give up, and you want to
Absolutely.
support a guy like that, and you got my full support, man. If you ever need me for anything, reach out.
I appreciate you so much, Leonard. It's been
Thank
an
you,
honor
guys.
talking to you. I'll get this uploaded to YouTube. I probably
Perfect.
won't post it till tomorrow just because of the
Okay.
time. If you'd like,
Perfect.
I'll send you a copy, and if for any reason you don't like it, I'll pull it down.
Oh, I love it, man. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you
All
again,
right.
Leonard. Have a great rest of your night
Yes,
and a great
sir.
fourth.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye bye.
Bye.